I got my city doing front flips. When every father mayor rapper jump ship. I guess that's why they call it where I stay. Clean up the streets so my daughter can have somewhere to play.
We're going to be starting with a winter wrap-up of everything that happened while we were not on the air, even though it is halfway through the semester. But first, I actually wanted to start with something that happened in class today. And it really kind of, Kennedy was also in class with me. It really kind of triggered me because it was one of the reasons why I decided to go into sport media. So as it's pretty obvious, coverage for women's sport is hugely lacking, and it's just so unequal to men's. And today we were talking about that in one of my society courses, and someone raised their hand and said, oh, this might be a little bit controversial, but isn't the reason why women aren't like hosting shows and that kind of thing because they just don't know sports, or like they haven't played? Yeah, they're less experienced. They haven't played in high level sports, that kind of thing. And you know, there's a bunch of sport media students sitting in the back, and our teacher was awesome. He was like, well, they have been like Olympians. They have played in like the CWHL. And the student continued to go on and say, oh, but that's not the NHL.
She didn't play in the NHL.
Yeah, that's not the same. That's not as competitive.
That's kind of impossible, actually.
That's what I said. I was like, it's, well, I mean, like, do you know that that's a men's league? Like,
yeah. So that was just, it was just kind of a huge wake-up call, because I feel like we're in sport media. We see women being represented so much more than I feel like the general population does. Yeah. But he was just a very good example of those who still believe in those stigmas, and they're just so used to like the social norm of like, oh, you're a girl, you don't know anything about sports.
And I think it's also like he's clearly not consuming women's sports, right?
Exactly.
So he's not seeing things like that, and
how good the
even
sport
like
actually
thinking
is.
about the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup, and the whole panel was female. So there are, you know, places where there are a lot of women on the like production side of sport media, but clearly he doesn't see that. Yay, Emma's here.
Hello,
okay, we're
Emma.
all here now. But yeah, I feel like that was just a good reminder to all of us why we're here, and it's kind of a good way to start off our season.
Yeah.
Last week we had the episode with Dr. Jen Welter, who was the first female NFL coach.
It's on YouTube. Check it out, the full episode.
Yes, it's about an hour long, I think, on YouTube. And on the show last week, we only played 50 minutes. So if you want to hear the whole thing, she was very interesting to listen to, and we're all very grateful that we had the opportunity to talk to her. But today, like Natasha was saying, we wanted to do a bit of a winter wrap-up, just like we did last semester with a summer wrap-up of all the stuff that happened. And our list is quite long. I thought we were going to get maybe 10 things or so, but I think with the All-Star game happening and all this other stuff, the list is very long, so we might not get through all of them.
It's been growing, you know?
Which is good, yeah. So the first one that stood out to me was Bianca Andreescu won the Lou Marsh Award, and she was the first ever tennis player to win that award, which is awesome to see her. Like, 2019 was definitely her year, and we've talked about her a lot on the show. She is injured now, which is unfortunate, but
I remember a few, like, I think it was the day the Lou Marsh was announced.
Yeah.
Earlier in the day, like, people were, obviously there's a lot of speculation that it would go to Bianca and everything, and I remember this guy was talking about, I think it was someone in, like, NCAA football who he thought deserved the award, and he basically said that he deserved it over Bianca because he was a man playing football instead of a woman playing tennis.
But
And a lot of people are replying,
so
like,
many questions.
yeah, a lot of people are replying, and we're like, Bianca Andreescu beat Serena Williams to win the U.S. Open. Like, that alone puts you in contention, never mind Rogers Cup and Indian Wells. And he's like, oh, well, like, I don't even remember what he said, but I remember reading him say, like, he's, like, playing football, which is a much higher contact sport. Like, she's playing women's tennis. There's not a lot of competition there. I was like, what?
I hate when people compare sports, like, not even just like male, female, but just in general, like you can't say that one sport is harder than like football's harder than tennis.
I remember
They're all so
I went
different.
to Jamaica when I was younger, and there were like tennis courts, and you could play for free, like just for fun. And my brother and I tried playing, and it is so hard. It is so hard.
And the stamina, like you think hockey players are on the ice for could be like 30 seconds at a time,
when they get off. Yeah.
And tennis, you are going for
the entire day,
running back and forth, and forth.
And that's the same as that's interesting that guy, the football player, was comparing himself. Because football's like similar, where you have a lot of like running and stopping and running and stopping.
Yeah.
Obviously their game is, I would say it's longer, and they're not running like the whole time, but that's definitely a skill that both of those sports have in common.
I just remember like reading it and reading him say like how men's football is more like physically grueling than women's tennis, and like he had to throw in that it was women's tennis, not just football to tennis, you know what I mean? So I was like, this is kind of ridiculous. But
another award to a female athlete, Megan, I always say her last name wrong. Rapinoe.
Yes.
She won the 2019 Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year, so it's not even like just a women's award, which is really awesome. And I think she had a really good year too. And I would say probably somewhat controversial as well.
Didn't she win FIFA Player of the Year as well?
Did she? I don't know.
I remember doing an article on this where it was also the 1-year anniversary of Kawhi's laugh, like coming out on the internet,
You're right.
and she had won that award, and it completely overshadowed her.
And she
was like, "I just won this award." Yeah. And everyone's talking about
for FIFA Pro Men. Oh, okay. The men's word was Lionel Messi. I'm looking for the women's.
But it was nice that this award for Sports Person of the Year.
Yeah, you're right. She was.
Wasn't overshadowed by something. You know what I mean? She got full recognition, and it wasn't just the woman of the year. It was the person of the year, which I think is really important.
Yeah. Another award, Christine Sinclair won Canadian Soccer Player of the Decade.
Very
Not
well
even just
deserving.
the year. Yeah. And with, I'm sure we'll be talking about her whole record setting.
I think everyone knows like her story. Like it's just insane. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially for Canada. Like she talks about all the time how like grateful she is to play for Canada. And I feel like Canadian soccer this year and into the future is going to be huge with like all the different players we have, whether they're on like TFC or Vancouver or just like the Canada team. So that's going to be exciting to see where that goes. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about Christine Sinclair throughout the rest of the season because that was a major, major event. Yeah. What else? We had Sportsnet, interestingly, put out a list of their top moments of the decade, and they only had one female moment in that whole list.
That was really disappointing.
I didn't see it. What was it?
I'll read it out right now. But I would have
because I can think of a lot of female moments right now, and I don't know which one is on the list. But
I feel like it's also because I feel like for TSN they own like the rights to more women's sports.
Mm-hmm. As for though, like you'd think Sportsnet would like recognize like the achievement, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's just like they're trying to promote their content more.
Yeah.
Content. Sorry. They're trying to promote their content more, and like. Yeah, they're going to post more men's stuff because that's just what they stream most. As TSN, like, they have rights to more female sports than, like, I mean, not more female than than male sports, but, like, more than Sportsnet does. So I think that definitely plays a factor, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But just speaking of the, with TSN and Sportsnet, the NHL at the All-Star game had the whole sort of inclusion of the women's game. It was just 3-on-3, but it was still really exciting to watch. And I liked the graphics that they had. They had one each time the line changed. They had like a little GPS. I don't know why I'm using my hands because no one can see this. They had like the little number, the country, and the name of the player above them, which I thought was really good for that kind of event because you don't really know those players as well. Mm-hmm. But that was really fun to watch.
I know there was a lot of backlash, like when the NHL posted about it, or like Sportsnet or whatever. I actually took screenshots of some of the things that men were commenting for this exact reason. So I'm gonna read some of them because I was really amazed at the thing that people were saying. Mm-hmm. So someone commented about how like I think it was Marie-Philippe Poulin, is the Gretzky of women's hockey. And someone replied, "Nobody is shut down by the Gretzky of women's hockey. I was the Gretzky of children's hockey. Should I be in the hall too? Every minor league hockey player is better than the Gretzky of women's hockey because women's hockey is a game while ice hockey is a sport."
Gotta go. I'm going home. Bye,
So
guys.
I just want to know how women's hockey and ice hockey are different to begin with, because it's ice hockey.
Hockey is hockey.
It's ice hockey. Like, you're playing. It's there. I can't even.
No, I mean, obviously there's some
Makes no sense.
rules that are different than male and female hockey, but like there's both still really hard.
Like, really, the only difference
Like-
is body contact.
I
yeah,
kind of want to know
like-
what you guys think about that, how the contact rule is different.
I think it's dumb.
I think they should have body contact in both.
So you're for.
Yeah, I'm
contact.
for
I
body
mean,
contact.
coming from someone who played hockey your whole
Yeah.
life, like, I know the boys don't have contact up until Pee-wee, and then when they start in bantam, that's when they start body contact, and I don't really see why it should be any different in girls hockey.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I don't
agree.
I
Do they
don't
have a reason for it? Like, what's their reason?
I've never heard a reason
Exactly.
for it. Like, I don't know why there's no contact.
Like,
It's,
Strange.
I feel like if they want female hockey to be equal, like to have more publicity and be equal to men's, I think they should make the rules the same
The
because
same.
it's they're making it as if, oh, they're females so they shouldn't fight, but it's like they want to be the same as men, so
Yeah,
they should
it's-
fight.
I think this goes
technically.
back to when we were talking about violence in sport in Laurel's class, and it was kind of like how men don't like watching female fight. Remember we were
like,
talking about UFC
yeah.
fighting? It's
It's
this weird
like-
thing where like guys will like to advertise like women's fighting to guys, you have to almost make it seem like it's like just a part of the sport and it's not two women fighting because oh my god, like women fighting, like
It's
what
almost
is
like
that? So I
contact
think that's
and
why they do it. I think they're trying to get more viewers by making them not fight because men are majority of viewership for sports, even though like that's
Yeah,
that's
fair.
very
Yeah.
changing. But
no,
I think
it's it's almost like the contact and like no contact in women's hockey is like to protect the ideology of like women are fragile and whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
We literally just talked about
yeah,
this
we
in
literally
class,
did. We
where
just
that
talked
guy,
about it.
he was like, "Oh, but it's like women's hockey. It's not the same thing." And our
Yeah,
teacher
it is.
completely shut him down. He was like, "Hockey is hockey."
End of discussion.
End of discussion. And
Yeah.
he said that to him, and the whole class was kind of like,
I was
yeah,
like,
you're
yikes.
kinda
But
dumb,
like, yeah, like I mean,
I don't see why not. Like,
yeah, like
And-
coming from my own experiences, you either get refs. I mean, I also played in an association where the refs are absolute garbage all the time. So, kind of remembering that, but like I also played outside of Stony Creek as well, right? So, refs either most of the time you get one that calls everything. It's like you can't do anything without
Yeah.
getting in the penalty box, or they call nothing and it gets way out of hand, and like that's how hockey becomes dirty. You know, like if it was the same, like it would be same kind of thing as men's hockey, right? But you get refs that don't call those body checks, and then it kind of escalates and girls start giving cheap shots and they start doing this and like nothing's happening because of it, you know what I mean? So like I don't know, you don't really see that in boys hockey as much, I find. Like I see like they give the body check and that's it. You know what I mean? Like they're allowed to do it, nothing's called, and you just kind of go on with the game. Like no one retaliates to it.
well, I feel like it's almost like once you get away with it, you keep doing
You
it.
keep doing it.
Whereas
yeah.
with guys, you're allowed to do it, so
You're
you're,
allowed
not
to do it,
getting
so
away
it
with
doesn't matter.
anything.
Like,
yeah.
in girls hockey, you find like someone gets body checked, it doesn't get called, the other girl retaliates. She like
Right.
swings her stick at their ankles, or she, you know, throws a punch in the face,
Because
whatever.
women can be aggressive too.
Exactly.
oh yeah,
But,
I think
like-
if it was allowed, like they would definitely take advantage.
It would
of
be so
that.
much different.
And-
It would be so much different if it was allowed.
Yeah, and I think like it's not only better for them and for like the sport, I think it's also better to attract publicity, because as much as we like, you know, don't want players to get hurt, like fighting attracts attention. You know, whenever there's a fight in the NHL, you're like, "Oh my god, that's like awesome. I want to watch it. Who wins?" I think it would be the same in women's hockey.
I think it would get both. Like, I'm not saying that by wanting them to allow contact in women's hockey, I'm not saying that I'm promoting fighting or anything. I don't
Yeah.
want people to watch women's hockey because I want people to
And you
watch
don't have to be
women's fighting.
pro or against. Like, you can be in the middle.
Yeah, but I think it would be a strategy. It would be interesting to see how much would be backlash saying, "Oh my God, women fighting, that's so wrong," and then people saying, "Well, of course women can fight. Like, it's
Why
it's
can the men
exactly
but
the
the women
same.
can't?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I definitely see like all sides of it, but like I said, coming from someone who's like been in the position, I feel like from watching like guys my age play hockey versus watching like or playing hockey myself with girls my age, it's so much different because I find, like I said, a body check is thrown in women's hockey, girls retaliate. A body check is thrown in boys hockey or men's hockey, and nothing happens because they're allowed to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like you would see a lot less like catty girls, I guess I should say. I can word it, and a lot less like cheap shots in girls hockey if there was, if you were just allowed to do it.
Yeah.
But I also liked at the All-Star game, so when they did the Shooting Stars event, which was like the new one where they have to shoot from up in the stands, it was fun seeing the women competitors and the men's competitors, like the NHL and NWHL. They were like just talking amongst each other, and it didn't feel like, oh, they're so different, because all of those players look up to those women too, and they realize like what amazing athletes they are and what they've done for our country, right? So it almost, I feel like it's a fan thing that when they don't understand the whole women's side of hockey.
Yeah, I actually like watched that like event and stuff with my family, and my little cousin, he's 6 years old. When like we were watching it, he looked at me and he's like, "Wait, Emma, why are there girls?"
Really?
And I was like, because like girls, like it was almost like, because it's not something you usually see, right? And I was like, yeah, because I'm like, because girls are amazing and they can skate fast too, and they can like score goals and they play hockey. And he was almost like he was so interested, and he was kind of like, oh, like so they play, like there's like a captain, and like when he started realizing that like there were like so many similarities and that like it was just girls, it was like almost like you were just opening up a kid's eyes to like a whole nother thing that they're not exposed to. So I was rolling with it. I was like, because girls are amazing. I'm like, yep, they can do that too. Like they're just as equal as guys. Like I didn't want to like be like they're better, because that's not true. I was like, but they're equal. I'm like, they can do things too. They're awesome. And it was just great to see, because I can't imagine all like the other kids that were watching that being like, oh, like this exists, like women's hockey is a thing, and they can be like competing like alongside men, and like, wow, what a world. Like,
and I think it's good to like open kids' eyes like that at a young age, because like then they don't end up like these guys that are leaving comments about how women should be cooking instead of playing hockey on Instagram.
Yeah, like just imagine like the young girls watching that too, seeing, you know, females like that compete and everything. I think that's a huge turning point in everything. I have kind of an unpopular opinion about the women's 3-on-3 game that they had. When I heard that it was happening, the first thing that came to mind was, why are they treating professional women's hockey players like Timbits?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like
because
in
I
between the
remember,
show, like in
exactly,
between
I
periods,
remember
yeah.
being like 6 years old and playing between periods for a Canucks game.
Oh, I did that for the Bulldogs when they played in the AHL.
Like they always have those like little kids playing between periods. So when I heard that was happening, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is such great exposure! Like this is amazing for the women's game and everything," I completely disagreed. I was like, "No, you're just kind of putting us down even more. Like, yeah, it's great that we're getting that exposure, like we're getting on TV and everything like that, but you're also treating us like
Give
kids.
us our own All-Star game.
Yeah,
Don't put us on during the intermission.
Exactly.
No, I get
that. It was
that,
downplaying
for
us
sure.
even more.
That's why I liked that they included them in the other activities.
I did see like a comment saying that like it was like, oh, the women's, they don't play in the NHL, so they shouldn't be there. And I was kind of just like, that just reminded me, based on your Timbits point, like it just reminded me, I'm like, so you see like Timbits play at the intermission of like an OHL game, should they not be there because they don't play in the OHL? Like,
Get
like
them out of here.
obviously, like get them off the ice, right? So I'm like I like the exposure. I'm happy that they did something at least, but I'd like to see kind of their own game.
maybe that's their plan.
time.
Maybe they're kind of just
Maybe they're
like,
working up to it. Yeah, like obviously it takes more.
Yeah, maybe there's obviously it's small steps, but I agree. I think I think we should eventually get to the point where they're both televised equally and they're both their separate event and they both get. I mean, you could still like have like one competition where men's play in the females one and females play in the men's one, and like still have them kind of intersect. But I agree. I think maybe eventually we'll get to the point where they can both have their own and equally be as popular and watched.
Well, another thing that happened over the break was the new CBA for the WNBA. So I'm just going to read a thing that quickly summarizes it. So
That was exciting.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So in 2018, the WNBA players opted out of their last CBA agreement to renegotiate their terms, and this new collective bargaining agreement deal will begin this season, and then it goes until 2027, and they have like a mutual opt-out after 6 years. So the league's top players are going to earn $500,000, which is triple the previous max. And the 2020 salary cap is $1.3 million, so it's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But on top of this, all working moms will receive a full salary while on mat leave, an annual child care stipend of $5,000, new progressive family planning benefits for issues like adoption, surrogacy, stuff like that. This one was shocking to me because it seems like this is something that any professional athlete would get anyways, but the CBA guarantees individual hotel rooms for every player and new mental health resources. So when I read that, I was like, does that mean they had to share hotel rooms?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they do that in the NHL? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, not that we would know. But
Yeah,
I
like,
feel
I don't
you'd
know if you
expect
get, like,
they
roommates
all
or
get their
anything.
own room, you know? And then the 2020 season is going to have 36 games for the first time ever. And the inaugural edition of the Commissioner's Cup tournament, which offers a $750,000 prize to the winning team. And the number of WNBA games shown on ABC, I think in the past it's been about 3. So this year it's going to be 5. Or not this year, I guess, just under the new CBA. And they're going to be a part of ESPN's 17-game regular season schedule. So it's the first time that the average player compensation in the WNBA is 6 figures, which
Wow.
it's kind of sad that that's the first time,
Yeah.
but it's exciting.
We're getting
Yeah,
there.
it is. And yeah, when you read the thing about the hotels and the mental health thing, like, don't they, like, it's weird to see that they didn't have, like, psychologists and stuff before, like, mental health, because I think that's so important when you're an athlete, especially because there's so much pressure on you. And I don't get how they didn't have that before.
I think if no one
It's
speaks
so-
up and says that it's needed more, or like if all these things are needed, then no one does anything about it. So I'm kind of glad that like these women probably pushed for it, and you know, like that's how the change happened. And yes, it's sad that it needed to get to that point where they're like, "Okay, we're done. Like this, like we need these things."
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm really glad
that's
that
usually
happened.
how things happen, and I'm glad that they like took action on it and did some stuff. Which
One of our friends just sent in something, which is really sad, but he said, fun fact about the contract with the WNBA, before the CBA, unless you had it in your contract, the player herself had to pay for the flight and hotels and everything.
That
Wow.
is very upsetting because what?
I know,
Just
that doesn't make
like-
any
That's
sense.
ridiculous.
Even teams like, I mean, every country's national team gets free hotels, gets free flights all the time.
Kids
Okay,
in the
I'm-
OHL don't have to
this-
pay for their hotel.
exactly,
Like that. They
minor
are,
leagues get
They
that.
are 16 to 21 years old.
I think this just goes back
Yeah.
to like why it's so much harder for women to be like to make a full career out of being an athlete, because not only are they getting paid less, but if they're having to pay for their own like a lot of their own flights and like it's coming out of their own pocket, of course they're not going to be able to like just be like an athlete, because they're going to need a side job and other jobs to be able to pay for this like
Yeah.
this like their passion, which
then
is
there's-
not how it is for most like professional sports
And
teams,
then
like
there's
male
men's
sports teams.
junior hockey. It's not even professional hockey.
And they're
they
not
don't have to
even-
pay for
that's
it. Like
crazy.
they just hop on a bus, check in a hotel, and they don't have to pay a dime.
Yeah.
It's like upsetting because they put that. This is literally their life. Like they put, like every single day, they train. They put their lives into this, and they get nothing out of it. They don't. They like now they do. Thank God. That's like great. But before this, like they didn't get anything. They could barely live off like what they got paid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
And I feel like with like this timing came perfectly for the CBA because of the Canadian women's team now qualifying for the Olympics. And we got to meet one of them a couple weeks ago at one of the events at school, and she was very humble. Like, she was so nice about it, and she's a picture book author too. So she has like another, I don't know if you can call it a side job or if it's more of a hobby. Like, I don't think she's really doing it because she needs to. Maybe she does. I don't know. I can't speak on that. But yeah, that was interesting to hear her. And like, she took out time to like come talk to us, and then was like, okay, bye. I gotta go qualify for the Olympics next week. Like,
That's like a big thing I notice as a difference between professional female athletes and professional male athletes is that the females, because they don't get that coverage and they don't get that attention, they will be out there, like outside the rink, like off the court, like signing autographs, doing interviews, talking to people, like taking time out of their days to like come do panels here at Ryerson and everything. Whereas like the male professional players might not do that or will
I
be
think
less
it's also
willing.
a lot harder to.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
they have less time because they're
exactly. Because
So many people
they have
wanna
buses
talk
that
to
are
them.
paid for, you know, they have a schedule, they have a private jet and everything
And
like
I feel
that.
like all female athletes, I think they're more aware of,
the issues.
yeah, and the fact that they have a platform to like inspire people. And I feel like with men, it's not expected that they use their platform to inspire younger kids in general.
Well, and
but
it's
women
easier for them too,
specifically.
right? Because
Yeah.
I feel like they have, you know, like more coverage. You see them all over the internet. You see them everywhere. Whereas
Yeah.
like female athletes, you see them on the internet if they do something like amazing or if they're at a panel and they say something like, you know, there's highlights from that. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's much easier for male athletes to get like inspire younger people than female.
Well, speaking of the WNBA, a bit of a sadder topic, that's not a word, but that happened over the break was Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna passing away in that helicopter accident. I think she probably would have been a WNBA star, so it's very sad to not see her make it that far.
I mean, even if she wasn't going to be a star,
Yeah, still.
just regardless of like who she was going to be in the future, it's just so sad that like Kobe had such an effect on female sports industry.
He literally opened like that entire
He opened
complex
so many
specifically for
doors.
his daughter
Yeah.
and her basketball team, and like he helped that, and he like he did so much for her and for female like women's basketball as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you guys see the video of Gianna's school retiring her jersey?
Yeah.
That I think that was like a really nice thing to
And
do.
I know UConn also, like she wanted to go to UConn for basketball, and they like had a jersey made for her and hung it over like a chair on their sideline with flowers for her to honor her.
Yeah.
No, I think everyone like really knows the impact that she would have had like
Yeah.
in sports and
lot of
acknowledged
people.
that. And I think Kobe like made it very obvious that like he was like 100% supporting her, and maybe not before, but once he realized like how passionate his daughter was and like basketball, I think his like passion for women's basketball grew. And he even said like he started going to like a lot more games and like started watching it a lot more on television.
Yeah, and took her with them like to
yeah.
games.
Oh my god.
And
One thing that I loved was in an interview where he had fans coming up to him with his daughter, and they would say, well, don't you want a son? Don't you want a son? Do you want someone to like carry on your name, carry on your legacy? And Gianna spoke up herself, and she was like, wait. That's my job. I've got this.
Oh.
And like hearing that, like hearing how young she was and just how courageous she was, and I
How
think a lot of
confident she was
that,
in herself.
yeah, of course, I think a lot of that came from just Kobe's belief in like, you know what, women are powerful too, and I think he inspired so many other women, so many other men too, to believe in other women, and like we're thankful for that, and it's really tragic that, you know. Of course, he's passed away, but I think he created a legacy that really sends a message that women's
That's what I was gonna
sports
say, yeah.
should be believed in, and they do have a future.
Well, also the to look at more of the, I don't want to say the bright side of, you know, their passings. Obviously, it's terrible, but it was nice to see how many, like I couldn't go on Instagram for at least 4 or 5 days without every single post. Maybe that's because we're all media students. I follow
Yeah.
every media outlet, so maybe that's why.
Even now we see
like,
from
all these
time to
sport
time,
pages.
New things are still coming up about like
all these
everything
sport
that they
pages,
do.
all these media stuff. Like,
But
we're all
probably
gonna
my
see it.
favorite one was, I think it was right outside the Staples Center, like where I used to play, and they'd put up a basketball net there, and there was, when I say a crowd, it was like when you go to Maple Leaf Square, like it was that many people, and they're all standing around the net, and this girl, probably about Gianna's age, comes up and then she shoots, and everyone obviously goes crazy and stuff because she gets it in. But I thought that was to see, like, you know, the, like you said, the legacy that they're leaving behind.
I saw a tweet the day he passed away, and some guy said he went in like to a flower shop to get flowers to leave at the Staples Center.
Oh yeah,
And
I saw that.
yeah, and he said like he wanted them purple and yellow, and the cashier, I guess, was like, "Oh, for Kobe," and he was like, "Yeah," and he asked how much, and she was like, "Nothing, it's on us."
Yeah.
Or it's on LA or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like Kobe definitely left a legacy and all of that, and it's like, extremely sad for the whole basketball community and everyone basically that he passed. But I think it's also important to not forget the other people that passed away in that crash because it was, I think, a baseball coach and his wife, and I think maybe their daughter, but I know they had like other kids that weren't on the helicopter, and
two of Gianna's teammates as well.
Yeah, and it's like kids are left without parents. Like so many lives were lost, and of course, you know, I understand why it's like Kobe and Gianna who are mostly remembered, but you know, I think it's also important to mention the other people too.
Yeah, for sure. On a happier note,
Quick transition here.
I know there's no way to easily transition, but there were a lot of females hired as coaches over the break, like a very considerable amount.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I was
like,
surprised. The
good
first one
though.
I remember seeing was Alyssa Nakken. Okay, and she was hired as the first full-time female coach in the MLB, which is awesome because obviously we had like Jen Welter come on last week, and that's the NFL, so it's nice to see other sports,
more sports
branching
expanding
out, right?
into it, yeah.
For sure.
Especially in like sports like like the football for the NFL and baseball for the MLB that are male dominated sports. Like of course
And also
the NHL, but like
majorly, like you would call them like the big American sports, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
think it's also
Like
good
2
seeing
out of
them
the
in
big
that.
4.
Not just like, obviously basketball's still big, but I feel like football and baseball are like the American sports,
they're
right?
just
it's cool to
so
see.
dominantly male.
Yeah.
And like
You
you
know?
look at the like ratios of like Canadian to American there, and it's like you look at hockey and it's like half the league's Canadian, half the league's American, and then like some Swedes, some Finns, you know. But like you look at football and it's like they're mostly American, 32 American teams.
Yeah.
You look at baseball, mostly American or like Puerto Rican or something. Not many Canadians either way. And then 29 American teams, 1 in Canada.
Yeah.
So I feel like
Yeah.
you know, I don't really know where I'm trying to go with
No,
that.
no,
but,
I get it. Yeah.
You know.
So that's exciting. That makes me want to watch baseball more this summer. Along with that, another NFL one. Jennifer King was hired with the Washington Redskins, and she's the first Black female NFL coach. So another first.
Yeah, and I think, like, you know, as we interviewed Jen Welter last time, I think it all, like, she was the first one.
Yeah.
So I think, as she said, you know, if she did bad at it, you know, they would say, we're not doing that. Like, we're not hiring other females. But
Right.
she was good. And now, you know, kind of
She's saying the first. That
yeah,
come
the
after
first,
her.
like, it was good. It was successful. So now they're continuing it by
She's
hiring
pushing
more
barriers.
And Katie Sowers, can't forget her.
Yes.
She was coaching at the the anniversary of the NFL's 100. I was gonna say the 100th Super Bowl. As the 49ers. San Francisco is really taking the female coaching because Alyssa Nakken, she was hired by the San Francisco Giants, and then 49ers with the first
San
female
Fran.
coach at the
Yay.
Super Bowl.
Katie Sowers was also the first LGBT female coach.
Yes,
to,
true.
or
Yeah,
I think
that's
it was
very
just
important.
LGBT coach in general to
Yeah.
coach in the Super Bowl and the first female
Was
to
it?
coach in the Super
openly.
Bowl.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that was awesome to see too. I'm sure everyone probably saw her tweet though. That was a little sad. She was kind of saying like, this has been an awesome opportunity, but it's reminded me of the ugly in the world or something like that.
Yeah, the hate in the world.
And then someone else, this I read this and I literally had to stop for a second because I was like, what are they trying to say? Someone said, women, if you're coaching in the NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, you need to get used to the ugly side of men's, in all caps, pro sports. The hate, the criticism, just because you're female doesn't make the criticism stop. And then Katie Sowers, little snap back. She was, I think you mean the ugly side of sports, not just men's sport. Like, that's a thing in every sport, right? She said, if anyone's wondering, this is a prime example of the classic internet assumptions. And then she puts in quotes, just because you're female, don't make the criticism stop. Oh, trust me, I know, but thanks for your input. Which, yeah, that was just another thing when you hear someone say that and you're like, how
I also don't think she was like trying to say like make the criticism stop just for
No,
me. She was saying like in general stop hating each other.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's like, the stuff doesn't happen just in male sports.
Yeah.
Like, literally, when I was still like competing, girls they're disgusting. Like, they were literally cut up each other's leotards, and like there would always be drama, and that's like how it is in a lot of sports and a lot of leagues. So that's not just like a men's thing. All sports are competitive.
Yeah, I was going to use the word competitive. That's how sports are, obviously. And I think being too competitive gets you in a little bit of a bad
Overconforming
mindset. Yeah. Is Nicole Forrester listening?
intimidation, aggression, violence.
Yeah. But another thing was Coco Gauff, 15 years old. I feel like the first season that we did, Girls Got Game, we talked about Penny Alexiak, and we were all like, I can't believe she's doing that. Like, she's our age. And now we're talking about Coco Gauff, who's 15.
That's
like,
insane.
5 years younger than some of us. Whoa. But she took out the defending champion, Naomi Osaka, which was really exciting. And I think last year, it might have been really early 2019, Osaka was doing really well. Yeah. I mean, throughout 2019, but that was crazy to see someone take down her, and at that, someone who's 15, right? And something, I was watching the Australian Open a couple weeks ago, and not like sport related, it's more sport media, but it was interesting. I think it was the Australian versus the American, I forget their names, and I think they were sponsored by the same company, so they had the exact same outfit on, which I just thought was strange, because it's like, how are you supposed to keep track of who's who, right?
Also, just like, I feel like if it was two men against each other that were sponsored by the same team, they may not have had the same outfit, but I feel like for women, because they really want you to look a specific way, their outfits were the same.
Yeah.
And it kind of just shows that they didn't expect both of them. Like, if you know that you have multiple athletes that you sponsor, maybe give them different outfits, because you know, like, you didn't even think in ahead that they may verse each other. Or that might just not be important to them.
As an athlete, can you not ask, like, can mine be blue instead of, like I don't know, like, or just something that's, like, different? Because I feel like that's also your, like, every time you go out and step out on the court, the field, whatever, yes, you have to wear the uniform, but you're also representing yourself. And if it's a single sport where you don't have to, like, look like a team, then why can't you, like, dress the way you want to dress?
Or, like, if you show up and you're wearing something that's exactly the same as the other person, can't you be like, hey, can I, like, wear something else?
Yeah,
or, like,
I mean,
just
if they both
change?
genuinely didn't care,
yeah,
but then whatever, that's fine. But, like, I think I would want to be like, nah, I'm standing out. Like, back to that, like, intimidation thing of, like, your outfit and your confidence, like, says a lot about, like, or, like, plays a huge role in how you perform.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that we talk about stereotypes a lot, but we're also kind of conforming to them, because we're talking about tennis outfits right now. I don't know if two men had been wearing the same outfit, would people have noticed?
I mean, I would have noticed. I would have noticed just simply because, like, obviously I grew up playing team sports, so, like, you're always in, like, different jerseys, you know what I mean? Like, I've had a point one time where, like, we were playing Hamilton, which is, like, literally the same city, so whenever we played, we didn't really know, like, who was home, who was the visitor. I had a game one time where, like, both teams walked out in white, and we're like, wait, what?
That's a problem.
And, like, so we had to go back in and change into black, because we were the visiting team, but we were playing at our home rink, so we didn't know, right?
That's weird.
Like, so I feel like just because of that, like, I always notice when, like, if jerseys are really similar, or, like, if outfits are similar, like, I'm so quick to notice stuff like that just because it confuses me.
Anytime like to like hockey or soccer, whenever teams have to like move like or everyone like there's a lot of stuff happening, if I can't follow which team's which because they all
By
look
color,
the same, then I'm like no, something was off here, like someone made a bad choice.
If I'm watching two teams that are like they have like the same colors or something, I'm like, what team's which? Like I always forget. I'm so bad.
And I guess in tennis, like they stay to their sides, like it's kind of like it's easy to follow and know who's who. It's just more for me like just like personal of like I would not want to wear the same thing.
And with other sports, they usually have like a name on the back of their jersey. Or
yeah,
something.
right.
You
No,
don't,
for sure,
right?
yeah.
And they were both like blonde and white, so it was even harder.
Yeah.
Something else that happened over the break that is not a huge sport that a lot of people follow, but I do. Snowboarding. And at the X Games, I just found it interesting. The top 3 athletes for the women's snowboard big air, which is where they just go straight down. It's like one jump that's like 4 stories high. Miyabi Onitsuka, Kokomo Murase, who's 13 years old, and Riera Iwabuchi. They're all Japanese, and they came like 1st, 2nd, 3rd in that event. And then all the like Austrians and Americans, they all came like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Lori Bluen from Canada was 5th. But
were all 3 of these girls 13 or just the one?
No.
13 is
gonna
so young.
But
still.
I know.
What did I do when I was 13? I played like
low
level hockey.
Like how much experience? That's just pure talent because you can't
That's
just
insane.
say
They're
that
all
like
young,
that's
though.
experience because how much experience do you have at 13 unless you like I mean there's no doubt that they all train like every single day and like for a lot of hours, but that, I don't know, that's just crazy. 13's so young.
That's what I find is fun about the X Games though is the way they do it is they have like the Burton qualifiers and they go around countries and stuff. So Toronto will have like up at Blue Mountain they'll have like 2 days where it's qualifiers and basically anyone can go and try and qualify for it. But yeah, these 3 Japanese athletes, the first one was 22 years old and then 13 and then 19, so they're all pretty young. But 13 is I know.
That's like another level.
But that's like pure. Sorry.
I can't imagine just letting my 13-year-old rip down a hill.
I know.
in
And
a
she was probably doing
snowboard.
that at 11 too, right?
Exactly.
That's so scary.
That's insane.
God. Well, you know, at least if she breaks bones, they'll heal fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Look at it that way.
Yeah. I actually wanted to bring something up.
Mm-hmm.
It happened very recently, a few days ago. I don't think anyone heard about it because like, it's not that big. But a Russian gymnast, rhythmic gymnast, Alexandra Soldatova, recently she's been suffering from bulimia for 3 years. And she only came out in an interview a few days ago and said she had bulimia. And she's still been competing with bulimia for 3 years, and it was really, and when they asked her why, she said she was scared to tell her coach and she was scared to tell her parents because of the pressure of competition. And like, you know, for Russian gymnasts it's insane pressure, like literally they train like 10 hours a day. So she was scared too, and then she just collapsed in a competition. She just like fainted, and then she had to tell her coach. So I think that's just sad when you can't tell your
Express
coach
things like that to your coach,
I feel like that kind of ties into what we talk about in like Nicole's class about like sport norms and stuff, and I feel like she's
putting her body on the line.
To compete. Yeah, like because you know, you think of gymnasts, like everyone expects them to be like short, skinny, blonde.
Yeah.
You know, like they all.
That's
like
that's the reason why she got it, because there was so much expectation for her to have like the perfect body and like be skinny, and then she just like literally
like the
got an eating
expectations for
disorder.
female gymnasts are so unrealistic.
Well, I also think not just bulimia, but in general, a lot of eating disorders and unnatural eating habits. I feel like those are pretty common in sports like gymnastics, figure skating. I don't know if you guys or anyone listening has seen I, Tonya. But obviously that's set in a very different era. But like seeing that.
Yeah.
Oh, it definitely is.
Oh, guys, there's a new show on Netflix, Spinning Out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've heard about that. By the way, I played at the rink that was filmed at. Just saying.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God. I
it's
didn't
in
know it was
Orange.
Canadian.
It's in Orangeville.
Oh.
I mean, I don't
That's
know this
cool.
for sure, but it looks exactly the same. So I'm just gonna guess because it's a very specific looking arena. So
Fun.
Yeah, it's really cool because there are actually some Canadian figure skaters in the TV show, which is really cool, and it ties in with kind of what we're talking about here, like, you know, going above and beyond, and like your sport is your life and all that stuff. So everyone watch it. It's on Netflix.
Definitely adding it to the list. Well, I think this was a very exciting winter break. I
Yeah,
feel
we
like did
covered a lot. A lot happened.
And I'm glad we kind of got through all of them. Most of them, at least.
Most of them.
Most of them.
There was one more of a pop culture thing. Well, we have like a minute left. Just super fun to bring up. In the Super Bowl, the halftime show, Shakira and J-Lo, that was the first
Killed it.
full Latino show. And I don't know, I thought it was fun. I'm not the biggest fan of their music, but like Natasha came over to my house to watch it, and I didn't realize until after, but I was like, I knew every song Shakira sang. Was I like a low-key Shakira song fan?
I think,
So weird.
yeah.
It
It
was
was
fun.
a crazy show. The only part that kind of confused me was when J-Lo started dancing on a pole. But like,
Movie
that
promo.
goes along, that goes along with her movie Hustlers and everything.
Yeah.
Overall, amazing
was
Super
fun.
Bowl,
they
halftime.
put on a good show.
I was
Yeah.
confused by the Shakira's rope thing. Like, what was that?
Her
Like,
what thing?
when she put the
Oh, I
dough
think it's
on
like a
her
type
now?
of dance.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't know.
Okay, is that part of the dance?
Yeah, I think it's like a traditional type of like belly dancing.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's why I
Yeah.
liked how much culture there was in it, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah, there
just
was
their
a lot of
songs. It was
culture in
good.
it for sure.
But that was a really interesting discussion. I'm excited to get back to talking more about. I'm sure a lot of these names are going to come up this season
Yeah.
again. So next week we'll be back here from 2 to 3 every Wednesday.